probably wondering why I look so dorky. Well, part of that's genetics, and the other part is that this is a project that we're doing with the New York Power Authority. It's kind of a neat project. This is a biometrics strap. It's made by Zephyr. We get a couple other ones that we're working with too. And the idea is that this measures 21 different biometrics, or biomatrices, metrices, I don't know, whatever the term is, and this reads them. Now the reason why we're doing this is because universally there's a problem with field crews. They're usually called linemen back in the day, but now they're called field crews. But they're about 99.98% men. And ladies, I'm throwing a softball out to you. And as we all know, men are stupid. Okay, linemen and groups of men generally working would rather fall over from heat exhaustion or dehydration than be the first guy to sit down in the shade and take a drink. So the idea behind this is that the foreman could wear a device, and this is a RealWear HMT1, and read and see who is at the point of exhaustion. So if you are all wearing these, I could look out, and by looking at you, see your heart rate, your breathing rate, and a bunch of other metrics. Now, the problem with these metrics is that they're not really sure which ones predict the heat stress, but that's another project that we're going to be working on next. But so anyway, I would be able to tell what your heart rate is, your breathing rate, and like that, and I'd be able to say, hey, Tony, why don't you sit down and get yourself a drink? So now that I don't need this, I'm going to take it off. Oh, and it's stuck. Okay, first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. Okay, I have been involved with augmented reality for about 6 years, doing research for the Electric Power Research Institute. And like all really good ideas, it was kind of generated in a bar. I was sitting drinking with a buddy of mine, and EPRI had just issued me my first iPhone, and of course being kind of dorky, I went out and I looked and I saw what was out there for apps. And one of the apps was an app to find restaurants, fast food restaurants to be specific. And I downloaded it and I held it up, and you could see that there was a McDonald's 2.3 miles away and a KFC 2.4 miles away, and they had the little symbol there. And I was sitting at the bar stool, like you do, talking to my colleague, and I said, hey, if we can see information like fast food restaurants, why can't we see utility information? Where the poles are, where the transformers are, where the substations are. And he was from Scotland, so he said something unintelligible that basically meant we can. And I said, great, let's do it. So we did it. And the way EPRI works is we do collaborative research. So we get people together, mostly utilities and national labs and universities and such, and we all work together on a problem. And in this case, we had Long Island Power Authority, LIPA, Con Ed, Entergy, which is the utility in New Orleans, and Gas Natural Fenosa, which is the gas and the electric utility in Madrid. And we put together an application where we looked at their geospatial information system data on an iPad, because that's what we had back then, and it worked out great. Long story short, it worked out great. So we went from saying, hey, can it work, to hey, should it work? And so right now we're working on a different project that kind of looks at some of the metrics that Pete mentioned about error rates and efficiency gains and such. try the clicker. Okay, now, before I get into this, I have to mention something about EPRI, because if I don't, when I get home on Monday, my badge won't work and I won't be able to get in the building anymore. So, EPRI is a 501c3 for the public good corporation. What does that mean? That means our research has to benefit the public. We have kind of four areas there. Our mission is to provide safe, reliable, affordable, and environmentally sustainable energy. I'll go through this really quickly. We're also independent, nonprofit, and collaborative. We're independent. Most of our money comes from electric utilities. They ask us to do research. They don't always like the results, but they know that the results are right because we're independent. All right, just so you don't think that EPRI is me and some guy in our spare bedroom in Knoxville, Tennessee. There are 450 members in more than 30 countries for EPRI. And international funding, 25% comes from overseas, but the big number here is last year our revenue was $412 million, and about $2.25 million of that is augmented reality research that I run. So EPRI is divided into 4 sectors, what normal people would call business units, but we call them sectors: environmental, nuclear generation, power delivery and utilization, and I work in power delivery utilization in the information and communication and cybersecurity area. All right, so I'm here to talk about this report. And you're going to want to get this report, and the way you want to get this report is to take that number, 300-201-0514, and I'll explain later, but go to EPRI.com, stick it in the search engine, and bring it up. Because this report is all about enterprise, augmented reality, vision, interoperability requirements, and standards landscapes. Interoperability and ubiquity are probably the 2 most quoted words today. In fact, if we did a word cloud of all the words today, you'd see interoperability and ubiquity would probably be right up there as the biggest words in the word cloud, right behind lunch. And so this report covers Internet of Things, smart grid, cybersecurity, big data, metrics, industry standards, and system integration, all from the context of augmented reality. And it does a survey of all of the pertinent standards that are around for augmented reality. So if you're an augmented reality developer, you're going to want to get this report. It's free, and you can use it any way you want. You can use it as a coaster. I don't care. So the electric utility industry just went through something called smart grid, and it was a very big effort. It's still going on, but we changed the name because we change the name every 4 or 5 years. And the federal government pumped a little over $4 billion into it. One of the things that came out of this, there's an organization that was called the Gridwise Architecture Council, or GWAC. It had the big names, IBM and GE and everybody in there. One of the things that they came up with was a framework for the smart grid. And this is the framework they came up with. And it's like a lot of other stacks. There's basic connectivity, network interoperability, syntactic interoperability, semantic, business context. The point of this is that there needs to be interoperability at each spot. Okay? Who liked that little app I just talked about? Wouldn't you like to get your hands on it? Have it working on your equipment? Yeah. Well, you can't. It's not because I'm a jerk, although I am, but it's because they're not interoperable. We wrote this for the HMT1 and the Zephyr, and you can't just swap out a Hexoskin set of sensors and a Vuzix. You just can't do it, or any other headset. It's the interoperability that is holding us back. And that's my thesis for this talk, is ubiquity comes from interoperability. I liked what you were saying about the platforms and such. But from my perspective, as someone who has to integrate a lot of things together and who has to develop solutions and do research for the industry and for the world, this interoperability is a big thing. So we, part of this report is we took this concept. Okay, we got all this stack here, and then we have all these verticals that apply to all of them. Okay, and you can look up, it's called the GWAX stack, which sounds like a line out of a Pink Floyd song, but it's, you can look it up anywhere. And we took that, and we also took the augmented reality MAR reference model. And this was, again, this was produced through, gosh, what is it called? There's an organization that does interoperability and augmented reality. Christine Perret runs it, and this is all part of that. And they broke it down into pieces to try and describe what is needed in an augmented reality application. But we thought that this was kind of too general and not really accurate. You can see the points of integration that you have. So in this report, we kind of take it one level deeper, and we have this layered effect, but also a three-dimensionality to it. You can see this kind of pops out. And the idea is that these are really independent of the augmented reality, but they're needed. They're that bottom physical layer kind of area that was in the GWAX stack. And then we have the AR middleware. And again, we've got things like context analyzer, simulator, execution engine, or renderer showing us what we get on the screen, and the native OS. And then at the top there, it's more of the AR piece, the interaction with the human being, the human-machine interface. And those are, all of these have to be interoperable to some degree. They have to talk to something else and talk to it in a way that these are swappable. Are there still, heads-up display manufacturers in the room? Oh, good, they're gone. Okay. So the idea here is to eliminate the special sauce, to make essentially commoditize the equipment. Ideally, in 5 years, you're going to walk into a Walmart because you broke your augmented reality heads-up display, pick another one off the Foster Grant augmented reality rack, put it on, pay for it, and go out, and it's going to work just fine. All right. One of the things that I noticed with my iPhone, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I came home and it automatically picked up my home Wi-Fi, and when I went into work, it automatically picked up the Wi-Fi at work. It used to drive me crazy every time you open your Windows-based laptop that you got to mess with the Wi-Fi. This morning I messed with the Wi-Fi for like a half an hour before I got the wireless to work, before I could get to the wireless network and all of that. Meanwhile, my iPhone and my iPad just connected to NYU Guest, and it just worked. That's interoperability. That's what we're talking about here. So I don't really like this slide, but here again, this is the report. I'm going to let the report do most of the talking for me. It's like 183 pages or something. But as I said, you take that number. This is the easiest way. This is like a SKU number, okay? And while you're there, feel free to root around and type in renewable energy or whatever, and you'll be able to get access to that report. So having said that and plugged in my report, I'll let you get to the Long Island Expressway. Thank you very much.